You can accomplish exponentially more by collaborating than you could if you were just trying to do something individually. When you're helpful to a lot of people, that's your intent and that's the approach that you take, you become very valuable. I'm Michael Mogill, founder and CEO of Crisp, the nation's #1 law firm growth company. I've built my business through practice, not theory. Crisp started with just $500 to my name and has grown to over 8 figures in revenue over the last few years, earning a spot on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. Our approach has been to take everything we've learned about generating massive growth within our own organization and help the country's most ambitious and committed law firm owners do the same for theirs. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with innovative market leaders from the legal industry and beyond to learn from those who thrive in the face of adversity, challenge the status quo, and define what it means to be a true game changer.
This is Jessica, Head of Coaching Strategy at Crisp, and today we're flipping the script for another special edition episode to get Michael's take on how to create and cultivate high-impact referral partnerships, why you can accomplish infinitely more through collaboration than going at it on your own, and how to break the cycle of transactional networking and develop long-lasting, valuable relationships.
What's the purpose of these networking events? You get everyone together, maybe they get drunk, but then ultimately, what did you come away from that? And did you grow and improve in any way? Did your business grow and improve in any way? Probably not. And I think it's because that's going about networking the wrong way. The right way to go about it is not so much what's in it for you, it's to really think what's in it for somebody else.
That's coming up on the Game Changing Attorney podcast. Welcome back to another AMMA.
Here we are, another one. We just record these episodes until the end of time and just keep recording, never stop recording. Welcome to the AMMA. Jessica, how you feeling today? Excited?
Feeling fantastic. It's been a great week.
It has been a great week. I know sometimes people get excited and they say, oh, thank God it's Friday. But I sometimes get to the end of the weekend and get a little sad. Yesterday, I thought it was Wednesday and it was Thursday. And then you get to the end of the week and you're like, wait, I want more time.
Yes.
Right? And of course you have the weekends, but other people aren't working on the weekends. And, just sometimes you just can't wait to say, thank God it's Monday. You come in excited, clicking your boots, just excited to solve all the problems that you don't even know are coming your way, all the stressors, all the nonsense, all the bullshit. It hasn't even popped into your brain yet. Things, I promise you listening right now to this podcast, there's some bullshit in your life or in your business that already exists that you don't know about yet, and you will hear about it. Maybe it could be tomorrow, could be today, could be next week, could be next month,
could
be months from
joys
now.
Of entrepreneurship.
But that's the joy, yes, the joys of entrepreneurship is you never quite know what new surprise awaits you. You could be having a wonderful day, everything's going right, boom, dagger, right? Sometimes you have a day where you have multiple daggers, sometimes 2 or 3, and at that point, if it's 3 or more, well, at that point, just sign off for the day and try again tomorrow. So anyway, this is the AMMA. You guys submit the questions. We answer the questions. You can submit them to us. You can text us at 404-531-7691. We might just answer your question here on the podcast. And if you join the podcast for the first time, this is the AMMA, but we also do a couple other types of episodes. We've got our traditional interview style podcasts. We interview experts from the legal industry and beyond. And we've got our encore editions. We bring back some of the most popular episodes, which strangely enough, perform better and have even more viewership than they did when they originally aired. And then we've got the AMMAs where you guys have submitted your questions. Jessica compiles them, surprises me with them, and then I give you my thoughts and my perspective, which you may or may not agree with. And you're entitled to your beliefs. You're entitled to think and do whatever you like. You're an adult. You can make your own decisions. But hopefully what we share with you is valuable to you and give you some new insight. Maybe it can help you in your business. Maybe it can help you personally. And if you get any sort of value from this episode or any other episode, all that we ask, we keep the podcast free. We don't run any ads. Just please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And you know what? That just helps us get better guests on the show. That's all. All right, Jessica, let's do it. What do we got? What do we got this week?
All right. So yes, whether people like the answer or not, at the end of the day, they did ask Michael Mogill anything.
This is true.
To kick this one off, talking about networking and strategic partnerships. So question number 1. As someone new to the legal industry, what are some practical steps I can take to start building a strong professional referral network from scratch?
So, the best cases, where do they come from? Don't come from Google. Don't come from pay-per-click. Don't come from a lot of places, but they do come from referrals, right? Almost unanimously, if you ask any lawyer, say where your best cases come from, they say referrals. Whether it's past clients or other lawyers people in your community, etc. So how do you start building this referral base and this referral network and this strategic partnership network from scratch? Because we all have to start somewhere. And everybody started with zero, unless it was your daddy's business, unless it was your granddaddy's business and your great-granddaddy's business, in which case you did not start from scratch. But I believe the majority of the listeners listening to this podcast, they did. They founded their business. They started from nothing and they built it from the ground up, which I respect tremendously. Okay? But there's many ways to do it. So if you think about how do you build it from scratch? Well, first and foremost, you got to put yourself out there. Whether you're an extroverted human being, probably much easier for you, or you're an introvert like me. A lot of people don't know that I'm an introvert. They're like, how can you be an introvert? You do this podcast, you speak on stage, you're speaking at workshops. And I'm like, yeah, guess how many people I get to talk to, right? It's like when you speak on stage, it's the safest place to be. You put me in a networking event, it's exhausting, man. I'm going to need a nap. I'm an introvert, not an extrovert. I'm the type of person where I get energy from being left alone, right? And just restoring, right? I don't need to be the life of the party. No thanks. But you do have to put yourself out there if you want to start building a network and building strategic partnerships and referral partnerships, which means you probably got to get out of the house, which means you probably have to really put yourself in the right rooms. It comes down to, well, who are the types of partners and relationships that you want to have? And then where do those people meet? So you can go to local bar, state bar functions, but that may not be, exactly what you're looking for. Maybe it's going to various legal conferences and seminars, maybe ones that are more business-minded, or maybe more trial conferences if you're trying to meet other trial lawyers. Absolutely. I mean, those are great ways to do it. There's the other route of just becoming really, really good at what it is that you do, like specializing in a niche area and becoming an expert in that space and becoming a thought leader, right? So we recently did an episode on this of someone who shares thoughts. Maybe you become the expert motorcycle accident lawyer or the expert trucking lawyer. Or maybe you know enough or more about medical marijuana than anybody else. Or my favorite, animal law. Okay, I'm bringing it back, animal law, where you're not representing the humans, you're representing the animals. Okay, maybe you know more about that than anybody else. And as a result, you put a lot of content out. You put out vlogs and videos. Maybe you've got a TikTok. Maybe you put out blog posts. Maybe you conduct seminars, CLEs, workshops, webinars, podcasts. Maybe you write a book. You can do all sorts of things. Maybe you have just an email campaign, or you put out an email every single week that's interesting and valuable and insightful, and you start to be seen as the expert in a particular space. Now, people will call upon you when they have that particular need, right? And don't worry about niching down too much, because it's actually, to be honest, the more you niche down, in our experience, probably the better that it is. I mean, with the firms we work with, you'd be surprised how far someone can specialize and how much more valuable that makes them to the people in their community and to other lawyers. When they know that you're the go-to trucking lawyer, they'd rather call upon you for a trucking accident case than the person who is a full-service law firm. So that's a couple of ways to do it, but I think if you're starting from scratch, you go down your Rolodex. I mean, I was thinking when I was starting out, I remember when I started Crisp, I have this fond memory of like the first few weeks of starting Crisp. And this was even before like working in the back room of that dental office. This is before any office. I would go to Starbucks and I would come into Starbucks every day because they had Wi-Fi, and I'd order the GTL, the green tea and lemonade. I felt bad like just to sit there all day and not order something, right? So I just order green tea and lemonade, and I would scroll down my phone and look at any human being that I had ever met in my life that was in my contacts list, and I'd message them and I said, hey, I just started this company called Crisp. We produce videos for businesses. Here's how we can help. Do you happen to know anybody who could benefit from X, Y, and Z? And I must have messaged hundreds of people at the time, maybe even 1,000 people. And the majority of them didn't even respond. The majority, probably over 90%, 95%, maybe 99% did not respond. But then there was one who said, you know what? I'm so glad you messaged me. In fact, I work at a company right now and we need a video. And I was like, look, man, I'll do it for free. Just get me in.
Yes.
Right? And that led to one video, then two, then before you know it, now we've done, I don't know, at this point, like tens of thousands. But you have to start somewhere. So sometimes just going down just the index of who do you know? Who are your friends? I mean, you all know somebody. And it doesn't matter if it was your high school teacher or like someone you knew in college. They may know somebody who knows somebody. Okay? So that's probably step number one. Number two, you can do this more strategically by just putting yourself in the right room. And again, this is a shameless plug, but in the Crisp Coach community, we have over 1,000 law firm owners, anywhere from 6-figure firms, 7-figure firms, 8-figure firms, and 9-figure firms. They all meet every single quarter. They've got a whole network. They network on social media. We meet at the summits. There's all sorts of different events that they engage at, and they build incredible relationships and referral partnerships, send each other cases simply because they're all part of this community. So that's an option as well. And then option number 3, and you can do any of these or all of these, is just become the expert in your area of practice, have some sort of differentiator, put out a lot of valuable content that's going to be engaging and help you build somewhat of a following or a community. Just give something to add value to another human being, and then you'll become known for something, and then people will reach out to you when they have that specific specialized need. So those are a few ways to get going if you're starting from scratch.
Awesome. All right, so moving on to question number 2. I've always been a bit skeptical about the value of networking. Can you share some specific examples of how strategic partnerships have directly benefited you?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I've got several examples. So strategic partnerships have benefited me both personally and professionally. Okay. Which one do we start with? So, all right, let's start the professional and we'll end on the personal. It's endless. I mean, endless amounts. I mean, you can accomplish so much more through collaboration. And when we think about strategic partnerships, like, what do we mean by that? I think it means more so of like somebody that has a capability, or skill set that you do not have, and you may have a capability, skill set that they do not have, and you join forces together and you can do a multiplier effect instead of an additive one. You can accomplish exponentially more by collaborating than you could if you were just trying to do something individually, right? That makes it strategic. Or there's something that you have that's valuable to them, they have that's valuable to you, and you can work together to achieve more, right? It's essentially said the same thing twice. So when I think about, let's say on the business side, the first one that comes to mind, I mean, this is even a few years ago, is now I'm a co-founder in a legal tech software company, Capture Now, right, which is essentially an AI phone receptionist for law firms. This is awesome. I mean, it's, you see this in the Fortune 500 space. If you've ever called Delta or American Express and you call those numbers and it recognizes who you are, and instead of saying press 1 for this, press 2 for Larry, press 3, it's just kind of like old school. This, instead of recognize that, and you just get to talk to it, you can go back and forth with this AI bot, works 24/7, 365, and this didn't exist in the legal industry. So it was actually, our co-founders, they had actually developed this. One was Gary Falkowitz, intake expert, intake guru, kind of wrote the book literally on legal intake. And Chris O'Brien, who also had founded the first legal intake CRM, Captura. And Chris and Gary teamed up, even years prior, they had one of the most successful legal call centers. They had seen some of the challenges associated with just human beings at these call centers. It's unpredictable, it's unreliable. And they were running one of the most successful ones. And just human behavior, if you're relying on someone to answer phones, sometimes they're in a good mood, sometimes they're in a bad mood, sometimes they don't take notes as accurately. I mean, they're not signing cases, they're just handling the intake. So they're passing through things to the CRM. Maybe the notes aren't accurate. There's not really good transparency and insight into what's really happening in terms of auditing. And, for most law firms, this is important, especially after hours. So at nights and weekends, or, when somebody's on the phone, let's say overflow. So who answers the phone at 2 a.m. on a Saturday? Usually it's the voicemail, or it goes to an outsourced call center. And the outsourced call centers are horrendous. And if you don't believe me, why don't you call and find out for yourself? So they said, you know what? The better approach and what's going to happen in the future is we're all going to be leveraging AI. Consumers just want a response immediately. They want to be able to call. They want somebody to answer the phone. They don't want the phone to ring, for 2 minutes. They don't want to go to voicemail and someone to call them back 3 days later. They want a response immediately. So again, this already exists in Fortune 500, in that space. They essentially built it for the legal industry. And we had known each other for many, many years. I mean, we obviously crossed paths at many of the legal conferences over the years. We built really strong relationships. We referred, clients to one another. Again, we just had always collaborated well together. So when they had this idea, they approached me and they said, look, here's what we got, right? Here's what we're building. What do you think? And I'm like, man, this is awesome. The tech was there. The development was there. We had, Chris's expertise in terms of like everything he'd done in scaling ICE and Captura, and Gary's expertise also in scaling ICE and being a legal intake expert, right? And they said, okay, well, how are we going to grow and scale this thing, right? And I said, well, here's the thing. We have an amazing audience. We have an amazing community that's growing tremendously. We host the largest law firm growth conference, right? So let's all team up. And that's exactly what we did. And then we announced Capture Now in 2022 at the Game Changers Summit, and it's continued to grow ever since. So I think that's a great example of us coming together and us leveraging our strengths to be, to become collaborators and being able to scale something more so than we could individually. Now, on the personal side, let's talk about strategic partnerships. This is awesome. So years ago in my baby days, it's after I graduated from college, and I was very much trying to find myself, and I was a lost individual, but I ran a nightlife photography company. And we would take pictures. It was actually in hospitality, right? So we would take pictures at concerts, at bars, at nightclubs. I had a whole team of college students who were very unreliable taking these photos at all these bars and restaurants across Atlanta. And again, as you can tell, my parents are very proud because they wanted me to go to medical school, and this is what I ended up doing, right? So here I am, 2 a.m., running around different bars and nightclubs, just checking in on everybody, making sure that everyone had taken all the photos. We processed the photos and we sent them to the venues, and they use them for, marketing and promotional purposes. And then we started doing videos, then we started doing marketing. It's like, this is kind of my breeding ground, my training ground. And I'll never forget that, during that time, it was around I think it was, 4.5 years of doing this. And I met these two individuals. They were also in the nightlife space. They ran like a party bus company. So like if you ever had like a corporate event, party event, they would take you in like these shuttle buses, which were awesome, super unique, not your traditional corporate shuttle bus. It was covered in fur. It's called the fur bus, okay? And if you wanted to have an amazing time on the town, you took a fur bus. I had the opportunity just to work with them several times. We took pictures of the fur bus. We did, shot videos of the fur bus. And you're thinking, where is he going? How did this benefit him? You fast forward years later, and it just so happened that one of the owners of the fur bus, her friend was Jessica. And she tried to introduce us. Well, at the time, I was a nightclub DJ, and Jessica had absolutely no interest in meeting me, for whatever reason. But fast forward years later, and as I started to grow and mature, they tried to reintroduce us again. And now,
look at us now.
Present day, one wife, 2 kids, thriving marriage. Here we are, all because of a strategic partnership with the fur bus. So that's why it matters. You never know, okay? You could either have a great business and basically find great investments and collaborations and being able to bring in new cases and really just essentially improve every aspect of your business through collaboration. Or you may even find your future wife, okay? Maybe you already have a wife. Maybe you're going to find a great friendship with somebody else who's introduced to you that loves the things that you love, maybe a great golfing partner or someone who can teach you a new skill or teach you to cook. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Anyway, the point is that you and I met through a strategic partnership that I had and it benefited me personally. And then I give another example where it also benefited us professionally.
That is correct. But that goes to say you must treat everyone well. You must take care of everyone. Cross all the T's, dot all the I's. Because had you not,
you never know what someone might lead. You never know. You never know what the outcome of just treating somebody well could be. So again, make sure you never slip on those things, that you're always operating at the highest level, always providing everybody with the best level of service, providing the best respect, because who knows where that could ultimately lead to. In my case, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah, here I am at Crisp 10 years later.
Here we are.
All right, to round us out today with question number 3, networking can often feel transactional. So what are some tips for building genuine, long-lasting relationships that go beyond just exchanging business cards?
Yeah, I agree with this. This is a great question because I remember in the early days of Crisp, I would try to go to every networking event possible. I'd hear about things going on in Atlanta, and it was just like 40 under 40, that sort of thing. And then, just like entrepreneurs and startups. And, I was like, listen, I'll go to everything. And I remember going to these things, and I could tell it wasn't very authentic, right? Nobody really cared about anybody. We're all broke. Everyone's just passing out business cards, and they're like, just give me business. And obviously, when you do it that way, it doesn't really lead anywhere. So it does feel very transactional. It's like, what's the purpose of these networking events? You get everyone together, maybe they get drunk, but then ultimately, what did you come away from that? And did you grow and improve in any way? Did your business grow and improve in any way? Probably not. And I think it's because that's going about networking the wrong way. The right way to go about it is not so much what's in it for you, it's to really think what's in it for somebody else. So when I'm meeting somebody new and we're talking about, a potential strategic partnership, I'm not talking about here's what my needs are or here's what I need. I think, how can I best support you? Okay. And it's giving first. Okay. Maybe you're able to refer a client or a case to them. Maybe you're able to help them solve a big problem or challenge that they have. Maybe you've got a great connection that would be a great resource for them, and just be helpful. And if you do this with the right intent, so a lot of times it's not, this quid pro quo, like I'm going to help you and then, you're going to have to reciprocate. It's more so from the standpoint of, okay, I'm going to help you because I just want to help you and I want you to be successful. Okay. And that's how we're going to build trust in our relationship. And then maybe, when you have an opportunity that you feel could help me comes along, then maybe you'll share it with me. Maybe not. You give without the expectation of return. This happened even just this week. I was introduced to somebody and I didn't really know if there was any opportunity for us to collaborate. I didn't really know much about them. So when we're meeting, I'm asking them all sorts of questions about what are the biggest challenges that they run into, what are the types of problems that they solve, who do they help, how can I help? And I realized that I knew another person who could be a great collaborator for them, right? And if I just put the two of them in touch, good luck, guys. Like, here we go. It solved a major problem for this person because they had, a big challenge that they were experiencing in their business, kind of a major void of a product that they were delivering that they were struggling with. And I introduced them to someone who's like amazing at this, and it solved that problem for them. Now, again, I don't expect anything in return for that. You don't have to pay me, okay? I just want to be helpful. And when you're helpful to a lot of people, and that's that's your intent and that's the approach that you take, you become very valuable, right? And it all comes back around. I think it's kind of the definition of karma, right? You don't ever expect any return, and who knows, maybe there'll never be one, or maybe there's going to be one 3 years or 5 years from now. I've had countless scenarios where, I helped somebody and then forgot about it, and then 5 years later, it comes around and this person introduces me to someone that they know in their network, and we end up hiring them in our company, and they end up being an incredible performer, and they're just absolutely crushing it. And it's only because I helped them with something that at the time maybe seemed trivial to me. It was nothing, but it was the world to them.
Yeah, so true.
So that's what it is. I think, if you want to get away from transactional networking, it's like you really think in terms of, well, what could be transformational to this person? How can I add value to them? How can I help them? I mean, there's always ways in which you can help someone. And if you can't, right? If you think, okay, well, there's nothing I can do. I don't think there's anything they need from me. Well, then why would you expect for them to give to you? This is no different than let's say you want to find a mentor and you think, well, why would a busy person want to mentor me? Well, they probably don't want to mentor you. But if you message them enough times and you're able to get their attention enough times and you're able to find out, okay, what is it that keeps them up at night? What are the things that could be valuable to them? And you start to maybe, find ways in saying, here, how can I help you? How can I support you? Or maybe maybe you start following their content. Maybe you start engaging and commenting on their content. An example would be, and I know I'm going to open up the floodgates to this if I say this, but I'm just using this for the sake of an example, is that let's say you wanted to get in touch with me. There's people that reach out all the time. I get emails all the time. I get in-mails on LinkedIn all the time. I get texts. I don't even know how people get my number, right? Probably data leaks or something like that always want to meet up. And I don't know these people. I just want to spend time with my family and I want to spend time with our kids, right? So how would you get my attention? Well, imagine every time we put out something about this podcast, right? You comment on the post and say, hey, this is really valuable and here's why. Then imagine you get the book and you read the book and then you share what you send me an email with what you found valuable in the book. And then imagine that you're following us on social media and you're commenting and engaging and just sharing the content. You're doing things that I'm like, okay, now you're getting our attention. And then you message me and you say, hey, can I get 5 minutes? I would just love to learn from you. I'd love to ask you this question. But I recognize you because I'm every time I post something on LinkedIn, this person is commenting on it and they're sharing it, they're providing their perspective. And I can tell that they're keeping up with this stuff and they've taken initiative in what they're doing. So yeah, okay, 5 minutes, no big deal. And then on 5 minutes, you show up to that call and you want bonus points. And imagine on those 5 minutes, instead of saying, here's what I need, you say, what do you need help with? Instead of saying, actually, don't do that. Here's some ways I think I can help you. Because I'm how do you know if you can help me? Instead say, what are some ways that I can support you? Here's some things that I'm good at, right? Maybe you're good at, shooting videos. Maybe you're good at designing graphics. Maybe you're good at writing blog posts. Maybe you're good at, tax strategies. Maybe you're good at negotiation. I don't know, whatever it could be. And saying, here's some of the things that I can do and here's what I can do. Maybe I can add value to you in some way. Now we're talking.
Yeah.
So just think in terms of how can you give first, and then you start to develop real relationships and really strong strategic partnerships.
Absolutely. And I think that's the best version and perspective coming from an introvert on how to network.
There you go. See you next time.
You've been listening to the Game Changing Attorney podcast with Michael Mogill. If you found this episode valuable, here are 3 free ways that we can help you grow your law firm. Number 1, download the first chapter of Michael's book absolutely free at gamechangingattorney.com. Number 2, you can shoot Michael a text at 404-531-7691 and ask him any question you'd like. You might just hear the answer on the next episode. And finally, number 3, if you can leave this podcast a 5-star review, it will help us gain access to more influential thought leaders and bring their lessons learned here to you. For more information on this episode, see the show notes in your podcast app or visit legalpodcast.com.